so funky. Shake it. So funky that you just can't take it. Then go on. Use or lose your thing. You got to use or lose your thing.
Hey, Richard. Funny seeing you.
Yeah. I haven't been here since we were with Frankie C. the last time with Norah and the Willies and all
That was
that.
that big dinner we had, and Jesse was here, I think.
And somebody recognized Norah, and when they said goodbye to her, they said, "Thanks, Laura," and they walk out of the place, and she never lived it down. Do you know Frankie C, Tony?
Yeah, yeah.
You've met him before at
Oh,
gym
yeah,
shows?
oh, yeah.
How did you and Norah meet?
That was through Lee Alexander, because Lee used to play some gigs with me. We used to play like the worst gig in the world. It's the hardest load-in on earth. You had to go through this alley-like thing that was like this big, like a Princeton sideways barely fit. Wow. Like your shoulders didn't fit. And then there was this winding stairway that, I mean, Lee could confirm this. You could literally would have to hand the bass up to the stage, and the stage was super high in the corner, and you'd kind of serenade the diners, who barely even knew if there was human beings playing this stuff.
How much did it pay?
Oh God, it was like probably like $50.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
Cheers, manja.
Yeah. Chin chin.
Boom, boom.
All right.
Jim, Tony, you're not drinking.
If I say anything I regret, I want it to be sober.
Oh. There was a couple of years where you didn't drink.
No, there was like a couple of 10 years I didn't drink.
10 years?
10 years, yeah.
What was that all about?
It became how I was used to playing. And I just became used to having a few drinks before the fourth set. Then I kind of got used to having a few drinks before the third set. Then I got kind of used to having drinks starting at 3 in the afternoon before the first set.
Okay.
So I quit for about 10 years. And a couple of years ago, I started drinking again. Now I quit smoking in January. I haven't drank since January because I'm afraid to drink because I'll smoke.
How are we going to finish the Little Willies record?
I'll drink.
Okay.
I'll drink. Because that's the most drunk I've ever been. Like recording.
On a session?
Yeah, I mean, I was ripped.
Me too.
And I'm willing to talk about it for an hour or two if you want to talk about it.
Let's talk about what your Italian family used to serve at the dinner table.
We're Italian American, so a lot of times it was, it was meatloaf or whatever. But my mother used to make ravioli, you know, like homemade ravioli.
Oh, okay.
And it was with brains.
Head cheese?
Yeah, head cheese.
Right.
And, which never bothered me.
Whose brains were they?
Like, I don't know, some animals, cows, it wasn't Einstein or any important brains.
Isn't there a thing on New Year's Eve in Italian culture too, like New Year's Eve where it's, Christmas Eve where it's all fishes or something,
yeah,
like all seafood? On
Fridays, on Fridays we'd have to eat fish. You can't eat meat on Fridays up until I forget what it was, 1975 they changed it, I don't know. I guess God sent a telegram down to the Pope and he read it and, said, okay. I used to like eating fish on Fridays or not eating meat because a lot of times we'd just have pancakes or waffles because fish was too expensive. So, growing up, that's like a dream dinner. Oh boy, waffles for dinner,
Nice.
That was the Catholic thing. But
Speaking of the Pope, are your parents super observant Catholics?
No, I don't think so. my mother more so. My mother definitely believes in Jesus, and she actually has this little, what was that movie called, The Passion of Christ? Like this little Passion of Christ party, where like all her and her girlfriends get together and they watch The Passion of Christ. Like
How often do they do it?
About once a year, because they like it so much, and basically they beat the shit out of Jesus for about an hour and a half.
That's all it is, man.
That's the whole
And why my mother cries at the end, I never have made it. But my mother's My mother comes from a place I respect.
Yeah.
She's tolerant, she's smart, she's a great inspiration and all that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, she's into the Passion of Christ. I don't know why.
Maybe she'd enjoy the Antichrist.
Jim, how old were you when you left San Francisco?
I was 43.
I can't even picture you in San Francisco.
I
San
know.
Francisco is such a slacker town compared to New York, and you're so unslacker-like. Your brain is always buzzing. You've always got something going on.
I was a little tired of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I think most of the people are here, it's about work. And I like that.
There's a purpose or like a kind of a driving
Yeah,
force
it's not
outside
about
of just hanging. And,
I mean, a lot of the scene in San Francisco to me seems like, well, what are we gonna make for dinner?
right. You
It
sure you don't want
seems
some
like,
wine?
like dinner is a creative venture that requires a lot of thought, we're gonna get our homemade pasta, then we're gonna go buy, a tomato that's never been touched by human hands, that had a sphere on it and the dirt, and then they have their dinner, and it's not like, okay, let's get a slice of pizza and go see Richard Julian at 9, and then
Right.
at 10 across the street somebody else is playing, then we'll end up at the Brooklyn Boogaloo Blowout,
And it's
I
very
mean,
political too. Like the big advertisement is that the food is all local, and
Yeah.
that's happening a lot of places now. But it's on
What's that called?
steroids out in locavore, being a locavore.
You from Stanford, I mean, do you concur that San Francisco might be, I mean, I don't want to be here bashing San Francisco, but what do you think?
What I'm hearing is kind of like quality of life. People put a lot more value on that out there
Yeah.
than they do here.
It became,
Everywhere.
I think, an intolerant city.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way?
Intolerant for if you wanted to smoke, intolerant if you wanted to have loud music, intolerant if you didn't want to be politically correct.
They became the leftist Nazis that
Yeah.
Glenn Beck is trying to warn everybody
I mean,
about.
I would never want to side with Glenn Beck, obviously, and there's
but
a
they
re-
epitomize a certain something that gets stereotyped from that side.
I think it's real.
Yeah.
Personally, I got like the hell beat out of me on the eve of the Gulf
yeah.
War. They were blocking Market Street, and I had a gig, and some guy blocked me with his bike, and I'm like, I had a gig, and so I tried to go around him, and
Oh, you didn't know it was a protest?
no,
You
I
just
mean,
saw something in your
I
way and
had
you had
an
to get to your
idea
gig.
he was protesting, but I'm like,
Who cares?
there's this one guy, I got a gig, I mean, you could protest, I don't like the war either, but I mean, whatever, I'm on your side, I don't agree with this. I mean, he freaked out, I kind of niched around him. I had a crappy little Opel car. It wasn't like I was in a Mercedes-Benz in a business suit,
Right.
with the Eagles' greatest hits blasting. And so, man, he picked up his bike up and started slamming it on my hood.
His bicycle?
His bicycle. I stopped and I was like, what is going on? And he started yelling, this guy tried to run me over. And I'm like, who's he yelling to? Well, about 2 minutes later, like, I saw a sea, I mean, like hundreds
mass.
of people, and literally my car was engulfed in black. People were kicking in my windshields, all my tires got punctured, and a couple people were dragging me out of my car.
They were dragging you out of the car.
Dragging me out of my car,
Wow.
and everybody started screaming that this guy tried to run somebody over. I was hanging on to my steering wheel, got back in, and I had glass in my eyes. This is a horrible story, really. Then people were having a trial, like, to decide what to do with me.
On the street.
On
just
the
like
street.
a kangaroo court that just came up out of nowhere.
And that's San Francisco in its worst.
So what did they decide to do? What was the decision?
Well, this lasted maybe 35 minutes, and I'm telling you, it felt like about 3.5 weeks. Finally, the crowd
Jesus.
kind of dissipated. People were saying, well, we ought to kick the shit out of them, or they wanted my car keys because they felt that if they didn't take away my car keys, I would run somebody else over. It was really stupid.
Bizarre.
That's intolerant.
Yeah.
And there was some other thing that went on, and they were burning all the SUVs in the neighborhood.
Oh,
I remember
Jesus.
coming out of the studio, it was on 25th and Mission, and there was a burning SUV.
Wouldn't that be considered a pretty bad emission, though? Like a burning
Yeah.
SUV?
That's a pretty heavy footprint.
Like
Good
thousands.
point.